Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it. Hope the week's gone well, the first week of 2016. Let's start with some macro thoughts. China Forex reserves fell $512.66 billion in 2015, which is a very big number, but then they do have 4 trillion. Mario Andretti: if everything seems under control, you're just not going fast enough. That's a great quote. That to Hunter S. Thompson. The edge, there is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. Let me put up an image of Kyalami in Johannesburg, which is a lovely old racetrack. I think they're converting it into real estate because it's pretty prime. We had a great time driving some Jaguars around that racetrack. Let me put up that photograph that I like. Go back to Hunter S. Thompson. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride." And that Jaguar is a little bit like that. I put up a photograph of Hunter S. Thompson, extraordinary person, character, and playing with this theme of speed, take you back to Paul Virilio. Speed now illuminates reality, whereas light once gave objects of the world their shape, says Virilio. Let's move on. Seoul is to resume cross-border propaganda, and it's really an extraordinary sight, isn't it? All those speakers that they train on North Korea. I'm sure he's going to be terribly unhappy. Let me put up a photograph of Kim Jong-Un arriving at the Kumususan Palace of the Sun with his team. Saudi Arabian prince, this is the son of the king, says his country will not go to war with Iran despite tensions. Because a war between Saudi Arabia and Iran is the beginning of a major catastrophe in the region, for sure, we will not allow any such thing, Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Asked about the possibility of war, Prince Mohammed bin Salman told The Economist magazine, "It is something that we do not foresee at all. And whoever is pushing towards that is somebody who's not in their right mind. Because a war between Saudi Arabia and Iran is the beginning of a major catastrophe in the region. For sure, we will not allow any such thing," he said. Deputy Crown Prince, widely thought to wield considerable power in the monarchy, also defended the kingdom's execution of Nimr in the interview with the London-based magazine. My conclusions are, it's good to know he doesn't want to fight a war, but I still think, as I've said severally, that the kingdom, particularly the House of Saud, are making extraordinary decisions which will have long-term negative repercussions. Gaddafi gave a warning in part borne out by future events. This was in a conversation with Tony Blair. They, the jihadis, want to control the Mediterranean, and then they will attack Europe. In the first call on 25th February 2011, this is what he said. They, the jihadis, want to control the Mediterranean, and then they will attack Europe, he said. In the second call, the same day, the Libyan leader said, "We are not fighting them. They are attacking us. I want to tell you the truth. It is not a difficult situation at all. The story is simply this. An organization has laid down sleeping cells in North Africa, called the Al-Qaeda organization in North Africa. The sleeping cells in Libya are similar to dormant cells in America before 9/11. Gaddafi added, "I will have to arm the people and get ready for a fight. Libyan people will die. Damage will be on the Med, Europe, and the whole world. These armed groups are using the situation in Libya as a justification. We shall fight them." 3 weeks after the calls of NATO-led coalition that included Britain began bombing raids that led to the overthrow of Gaddafi, I concluded by saying no thought went into the day after, never does. What has come after is far worse than what existed before. I wrote a piece in 2011, Gaddafi's body in a freezer. What's the message? I said, I'm left thinking this dead Gaddafi business is one powerful message. And today, Marshall McLuhan's prediction in the Gutenberg Galaxy in 1962, that the new electronic interdependence recreates the world in the image of a global village, has come to pass. The image of a bloodied Gaddafi, then of a dead Gaddafi in a meat locker, have flashed around the world via the mobile, YouTube and Twitter. Who's in charge of the messaging? Through the fog of real time and raw footage, I note a very powerful message. The essence of that message being, don't F-U-C-K with us, because you will end up dead and a trophy souvenir in a fridge. The same person is probably repeating Muhammad's comment, I tell the coward crusaders I live in a place where they can't get me. I live in the heart of millions. Got a photograph of the Colonel and another one of Tony Blair pictured with Muammar Gaddafi in 2007. An Oregon rancher, this is, I don't know what you want to call it, this is the Christian Caliphate. God told me to invade the wildlife refuge, he said. And I said, funny how many folks think they have a direct line to God. Volatility in the energy market has helped to destabilize governments in the past, and I've spoken about this separately. Volatility in the energy market helped to destabilize governments in the past. The Soviet Union under Gorbachev's Suharto regime in Indonesia, or Venezuela just prior to the ascent of Hugo Chavez. So it's not far-fetched to imagine the winds of change blowing through Saudi Arabia or Russia, where the economic situation is edging towards desperate, or Iran, which is anxious to see the lifting of economic sanctions as a result of the nuclear deal. International markets, Chinese stocks gained and volatile trade as circuit breaker was scrapped. Scrapping of the circuit breaker system will help stabilize the market, but a sense of panic will remain, particularly among retail investors. So I think that was the best move that they could have done. Holger, China proves fast learner, painful free market lesson. Soros said on Thursday, China has a major adjustment problem. It does. I would say it amounts to a crisis. When I look at the financial markets, there is a serious challenge, which reminds me of the crisis we had in 2008, said George Soros. Reminds me of 1994. Of course, yesterday there was 29 minutes of chaos, stunned brokers in a race to sell. Have a look at the Bloomberg article. I still think the stock market crash represents probably the biggest political risk to the neo-totalitarian Xi Jinping. Currency markets, let's take a look. The euro had a bit of a bounce, but it's drifting off again, 108.75. Dollar index, when I checked last, 98.68. Japanese yen, 118.33. Swissy, 0.9988. The pound, 146.11. The Aussie, 0.7034. India rupee, 66.655. South Korean won, 1198.33. Rial, 404.38. Egyptian pound, 782.65. And the rand, 1594.97. Put up a 1-year chart of the dollar yen. I've got a new target here of 105. I think everything is turned on its head when it comes to the yen. Current to crown surplus supporting, and I think on balance the yen is headed higher. Dollar index, my target remains 110, notwithstanding the fact that I'm seeing a much stronger yen. Dollar Canada, last trading at 141.10. My target is now 155. Commodity markets, Saudi Arabia is considering an IPO of ARAMCO, which is considered probably the world's most valuable company. This is a report of The Economist. Saudi Arabia is thinking about listing shares in ARAMCO. Gold finally caught a bid and got over 1100. Let me check. Yes, it's still above 1100 at 1100.40. That's, I was talking about how it hadn't seemed to catch a bait, and now it's caught it. Crude oil, let's have a look at that. That's around $34.40 in New York. Sub-Saharan Africa, Somalia cuts diplomatic ties with Iran, citing threat to security. And it's a motley crew who've joined in, isn't it? Somalia, Sudan. Somalia's government cut diplomatic ties with Iran, recalled its envoys after accusing the Iranian embassy of establishing sects that pose a threat to national security in the Horn of Africa region. World Bank came out with their global economic prospects report, spillovers and weak growth. Just to take a few points, emerging market economies have been an engine of global growth during the 2000s, especially after the 2007-2008 global financial crisis. However, times are changing. Growth rates in several emerging market economies have been declining since 2010. The global economy will need to adapt to a new period of more modest growth in large emerging markets, characterized by lower commodity prices, diminished flows of trade and capital. This is the message that underlies this issue of the World Bank Group's global economic prospects. Looking ahead, global growth is poised to recover modestly to 2.9% in 2016, after falling short of expectations at 2.4% in 2015. This does not rule out the fact that there is a low probability risk of disorderly slowdown in major emerging markets as US interest rates rise after a long break and the US dollar strengthens. Global GDP growth of Sub-Saharan Africa, they're estimating last year, to be 3.4%. They're expecting this year to be slightly better at 4.2%. They've got Nigeria at 3.3 and Angola at 3, and these were big beasts in the Sub-Saharan African equation. Of course, South Africa is a very big beast, but that's growing at a negligible rate. Further weakness in global commodity prices could result in even sharper fiscal and currency adjustments. It could also lead to delays in investments in energy, mining, and they're particularly concerned about these investments in East African countries. Also talking about fiscal risks are elevated in several countries in East Africa. Dhlakama, who is the head of Renamo, boasts that Renamo will govern in March. In an interview published in Wednesday's issue of the anti-government weekly Canal de Mozambique, Dhlakama ruled out any talks with President Filipe Nyusi. There were no contacts between Renamo and the government, he claimed. We're not interested. Negotiate what? Asked Dhlakama. We negotiated the General Peace Agreement in 1992 so that all institutions would function with democratic rules. Frelimo didn't want it, and nothing functioned. South Africa's business confidence at its lowest in more than 2 decades. This was after the sacking of the finance minister and the instability in the financial markets that followed. South Africa's financial hub, Johannesburg, hit a record temperature of 37 degrees Celsius on Thursday, the South African Weather Service said. Previously, the record was 36.5 degrees Celsius. That was in November 2015. Let me put up a photograph of Johannesburg sunset that I took a while ago. South African all shares down 5.21% this year. Dollar rand, I traded over 16 yesterday. I expect it to go there again. Egyptian EGX 30 down 1.19% this year. Naira forwards hint Nigeria may be next to devalue. Non-deliverable forwards, which are accessible to foreign investors, climbed to 238 on Thursday. That is considerably higher than the current official rate of 199. Nigerian all share down 4.8% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index up 0.25% this year. Auction prices for African animals ranging from buffaloes to rare antelope plunged last year. Good. Auction prices for African animals ranging from buffaloes to rare antelope plunged. ending almost a decade of rising values that some in the industry have described as a bubble. Before last year, prices for some wildlife in South Africa had risen more than fivefold in 6 years as the country's hunting industry grew and farmers decided to switch from raising cattle to breeding game. The game ranching industry was valued at almost 12 billion rand and is growing by 10% a year. Then we put up a photograph of 2 male rhinos that we saw in Lewa. Of course, rhino horn is the most valuable commodity of them all. And another photograph of a rhino at the Nairobi National Park. Kenya is again set to be one of the fastest growing economies in Africa. This is the World Bank. They're predicting a growth rate of 5.7%. Below, of course, Tanzania and Ethiopia. Ethiopia has those mouth-watering, close to double-digit GDP increases. I think Kenya will be a bright spot in 2016. If you haven't seen my piece about the shilling, which really has been rock solid, 102.25 last time, the piece is called the Teflon shilling. It's on the website. Do take a look. Nairobi all share up 0.71% year to date, which is quite an outcome when you consider what's been going on elsewhere. NSE 20 down 0.93% year to date. Obviously, we had a lot of drama in the international markets, but it seemingly hasn't filtered into Nairobi. Kachoria tea rallied 4%. That's up 17% since the start of the year. Sasini, which had been marked down on low volume, was up by the daily limit. Safaricom edged 0.6% lower to close at 16.50. Kenya Airways up 3.22%. That's all about the American route being opened up to direct flights. KCB retreated 1.75%, but it's up 5% since the 30th of December closing, when they announced that they were going to create a holding company. Equity Bank was well traded, closed down 1.88%. EABL was a strong shower, up 6.81% to close at 298. It's a strong earnings story, and the CEO, who's also my neighbour, is exuding confidence. The Q3 cement data was very strong, up 10.77% versus the previous year's quarter, and that led up East African Portland up 4%, Banguri up 2.94%. I thank you for stopping by. I wish you a lovely weekend.